Welcome in. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel.
You are a vital part of our game.
Thank you for having me on.
All the way to the green. It was, woo! Boy, was that fun.
I've always wanted to be on 5 Clubs. Thanks, Gary.
Welcome in on a Monday. Great to have you with us live on Golf Channel and also PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on Sirius XM. This is 5 Clubs. I'm Gary Williams, and this program is always presented by Century Insurance. Business insurance is what they do. They also invest in golf, starting here, but most importantly with the First Tee, with the USGA, and with the PGA Tour. They want to be right by you. Century Insurance. On this Monday, we got a lot to get to. A lot of the best players in the world are going to play golf today. But you know what? We got our own tee sheet, because the tee sheet at one of the great clubs in the world is dotted with major champions. Well, our tee sheet includes the weekly winners. We'll give those to you here in just a moment, not to mention the recap of the Cognizant. Whatever you thought the recap was going to be at 5 p.m., we had to throw out the rundown because at 6 p.m. it was different. Obviously, starting with Nico Echavarria, Shane Lowry being the two guys there at the end. Jimmy Dunne, the president of Seminole Golf Club, is going to join me in less than 15 minutes. He's going to play golf in about a half an hour at his club where he presides as the president, the pro member today at Seminole. And then we will be joined a little bit later on by Robert Damron, winner on the PGA Tour when he won the Byron Nelson. Not only did he have the best player in the world breathing down his neck, he also had a host of other guys who would make their way into the Hall of Fame as well, but he's also an analyst for PGA Tour Live. His thoughts as somebody who has lived his life, his adult life at Bay Hill. This week, it's their stage. And then finally, the stage for the USGA annual meeting. I was up there in New York over the weekend. Just some thoughts primarily about the people who received the important honors from the USGA, their service awards, but also a couple thoughts about some announcements they made over the weekend, one including Tiger Woods as well. So that is your tee sheet here on 5 Clubs on a Monday. So, winners. And for people who were with us last Monday, we hope all of you were, you're going to say, well, didn't I just see this guy's name? Well, the weekly winners, here they are. It's Nico Echavarria for the 3rd time on the PGA Tour. He's opportunistic, and we will get to kind of his resume here in a moment, but he wins, goes bogey-free over the weekend, which is very impressive at PGA National. Hannah Green, for the 2nd time, wins the HSBC World Championship, her 7th overall win on the LPGA. And Casey Jarvis at 22 goes back-to-back in his home nation of South Africa. He wins the South African Open. He has gone from hovering right around 200 in the world rankings to now being 80th in the world in 8 days. And somebody who is not only going to turn 23 in the summertime, by the time he turns 23, will already played in a Masters tournament, because the South African Open, these open championships, these national championships that Augusta National chose to designate as winners would get invites if they were not already otherwise exempt. Casey Jarvis takes advantage. He will also play in the Open Championship. What a start to 2026 for the 22-year-old. So those are your winners presented by Golf Pride. And when it comes to grips, there is nobody, as you know, here that is trusted more around the world than Golf Pride. And now the Zero Taper Putter Grip Series is available for you. I have used the Reverse Taper Putter Grip Series for more than 2 years. Best materials, best technology, and now Zero Taper from Golf Pride. All right, so the Cognizant, we will start there. And look, we had a lengthy discussion last week, whether it was Billy Horschel, whether it was Matt Every, about how this golf course, you know, had kind of felt a little bit softer over the last couple of years, represented by the scores of the people who won the event. Well, it was similar because 19 and 17 the last 2 years. Well, it's 17 again, but the guy who was leading was 19 as we take a look at the final leaderboard. And with 3 holes to go, Shane Lowry looked like he was in complete control. Then he wiped his tee shot on 16, and all things changed. Nico Echavarria wins for the 3rd time. Lowry, it's the 2nd time this year, where he's had a late meltdown, did it in Dubai at the beginning of the year. Now he does it again. He's got a great record there. Taylor Moore, he jumps all the way up, not only to getting his first top 10 in over a year, he's now in the API through the Swing 5. Austin Smotherman also jumps up in the Aon Next 10. He's in the API. Ricky Castillo. Keith Mitchell gets his pathway with the tie for 6th into the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Keith, nice work. Not only do you get into the API, you're going to make your wife move into your new house alone. Good excuse, though. You're in a signature series event. I'm telling you, the ramifications of that will be years in the making. Nikolai Højgaard, good final round for him. He also at 11 under par. William Mao, also 11. And then look at Brooks Koepka. After what was, you're going after Thursday, he's going, look, if I'm out here just trying to make cuts, it's time for me to go. He digs in, putts exceptionally well. He finishes in the top 10, as does Joel Damon. So that's your top 10 at the Cognizant Classic. Nico. Now, at 31 years of age, he's now won 3 times. He's opportunistic. And Nico Echavarria, not only did he do something that a lot of the best players in the world, if you look at kind of how they won various events, if they've won a lot of times it's them blitzing a field. There are other times that they kind of grind it out and they nudge ahead. And there are other times. Jack did it plenty. Tiger did it plenty. I'm not putting him in that category. The point is, let somebody else make the mistake late. And that's what happened. All that Nico Echavarria could do was shoot the best score that he could. But along the way, he did something that few do, especially if they're in contention. He didn't have a blemish on his scorecard, not just Sunday, but also Saturday. So he goes bogey-free over the weekend, hangs around, hits a shot on 17 that I know that his heart skipped a beat or maybe stopped altogether for his second and a half because it had that look like, does it have enough? And then it got onto the putting surface. He makes that. He does a punctuated fist pump with a vamoose for good measure because he knew, because he had a weight on that tee and knowing what was going on behind him, and that was Shane Lowry. And let me just say a few more things about Nico Echavarria as far as, just kind of, getting through. His first full year on the PGA Tour, he missed 23 cuts. 23 of 31. That's not a small rash. That's a full-on outbreak. That's when you're going, I can't take this anymore. But he also won a golf tournament, which helped himself with fully exempt status. And then the following year, still missed a lot of cuts, but he won another golf tournament. And so, again, he kept himself, even so he was outside the top 100 in the FedEx Cup standings, he kept himself in a position of employment. And then last year, he made more cuts, and he improved himself to 62nd in the FedEx Cup standings. And now this year, look, he's missed 4 cuts already, but he finished tied for 8th at Pebble Beach, and now he's won. He has been very opportunistic, and that is, again, it's a good quality to have, and it also shows that, you know what, if you can just keep your equilibrium enough that you can continue to extend yourself, and now at 31 he's done that. For Shane Lowry, it's something different, and I'm going to ask Robert Damron about this, but Shane Lowry now, for the second time this year, has melted down late in a golf tournament. He did it at the Dubai Invitational, made a double bogey on the last hole. He had 139 from the left-hand first cut to, a back pin or kind of a middle pin in Dubai, tied for the lead. Blew it into a back bunker, hit the bunker shot into a greenside penalty area, and all of a sudden it's like, how did he just make double? And he just lost the golf tournament. And yesterday, for all intents and purposes, as far as elite golf, that's flawless golf. When he nudged his way either close to the lead or into the lead, which he was always touching or sharing at some point yesterday, he makes the bomb on 5, he makes a great par save on 6, and then when he chips in on 9 and then hits a fantastic second shot to 10, makes eagle, you're going, okay, he's taking a hold of this thing. And every single shot after that, through 15, including the tee shot on 15, he hit the most proper shot you could. That's why he had that very glossy club twirl. And you're going, he's got this. And then he didn't. And what happens to the mind and then in turn the body to the best players in the world on occasion is a mesmerizing thing to watch. And I think, and I'll ask Robert this question, if the direction of that golf course was opposite of what it was on 16, then to 17, could he have righted his mind and in turn his body? Because when he wiped his tee shot that was not even close with an iron off the tee on 16, and he had to look visually at the same type of appearance with the same wind going in this direction over the left shoulder. If Hogan was around, he'd tell you, evil wind. He didn't like it, so he had to kind of replicate to some degree the same thing that he tried to produce on the previous hole. What if that hole went back in the opposite direction and he could kind of sling a hook into a wind, into off the right? You think that might have benefited him? I think it would have, but it just goes to show you, just when you think somebody is in a place where his mind is completely fortified, it just abandons him. And he said it, and I give him credit. He stood up, faced the music, spoke about all of it, said, I gave it away, I had it in hand. My daughter's never seen me win a golf tournament. I just wanted to win it for her. He is a world-class player who, by the way, was the guy who showed, you know, Bill Raftery, the onions late in the Ryder Cup by stuffing it into that back left pin to end it all. And you're going, well, they'll never have a moment where he can't handle it. He's already had two. And it's March 2nd golf, as he said, I'll never figure it out. None of us will. That's why we keep coming back every single day. All right, when we continue, Jimmy Dunne, the president of Seminole Golf Club, the pro member is today. This is something that I know he loves, that his membership gets to share the day with all these great players, major champions. You look at the gold paint on the wall. His thoughts on this event, which is underway there at Seminole. He will join me from the Hutton Room. Yes, when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. He's not around anymore, but when Jimmy talks, we hope you'll listen. And a little bit later on, Robert Damron, PGA Tour Live analyst, my former colleague at Morning Drive, will get his thoughts on Bay Hill, what happened yesterday there at PGA National. It's a Monday. It is 5 Clubs. Great to have you with us. Jimmy Dunne from Seminole joins me next. Back in on a Monday, it is 5 Clubs live on Golf Channel. And of course, you can listen as well, PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on Sirius XM. This segment is brought to you by Century Insurance. Their business is business insurance. Evaluate yours with them. All right, joining me now, the president of the Seminole Golf Club. This is one of the romantic special days in golf for people who love golf, to play golf with people who play it better than anybody else on the planet. The pro member at Seminole, he is the president, he is Jimmy Dunne. My friend, look, to do a pre-round interview when you've got to defend a net title, wow, how amicable you are.
Well, I have a very good partner. I played with him 3 times, 2 practice rounds, 1 tournament round. He shot 63, 64, 65. So I'm relying on him again today. But we're going to have a great time. We got a great field. Looks like we got great weather. And nobody loves Seminole more than you, Gary, so it's great to visit with you this morning.
Well, thank you. You were kind enough to join us last year in advance of you putting some paint on the wall. So hopefully we keep this tradition alive. You know, Jimmy, give the viewers and listeners an idea. Look, this started in 1937, and then it was discontinued after Arnold Palmer and his partner won it in 1961. Kind of give everybody an idea of what the origins of this event were, and then the return of it in 2004. Just a little historical capsule, if you would.
Sure. Well, as you pointed out, in the early years, way back when, and those names were on the board, Hogan and Palmer and you name it, they're on there. It was a great event. I think they played for a little more money in those days, so the purse might have gotten a little bigger than the local tournament. So for whatever reason, which I'm not sure about, after AP won, they discontinued it. And then my predecessor, Tim Neer, who's a founder of Golf Channel, he kind of had the idea to bring it back, spoke to Arnold, and then it started back, as you said, I think in 03 or 04. And we just try to provide a day where professional golfers and our members can play without all the other stuff, play what is truly a great golf course at a really special place, and they can come and have an enjoyable day. And, everybody kind of makes an effort to be here. So we got a great group this year, and we're excited to play. And it's just had a long history. Tim really resuscitated it, brought it back, and we're running now for over 20 years. So it's been a lot of fun. It's a great day. We all look forward to it.
Jimmy, you had been a member for roughly a decade when it came back in 2004. Have you played every single year? I assume you have. No?
We must be on the same mental vibe. Actually, no. What happened 04, 05, and 06, I wasn't really playing any Monday golf in those days. I was working, and I can remember being right before a board meeting started, and I was about to go to work, and I got a call from Ed Hurley telling me what an unbelievable day it was and how great it was, and you got to make it next year. But I missed, and I was even going to look at it today. I should have been more prepared for your question, but I really missed several years at the start. And I think because I've had a bunch of different partners, so I think I've gone about 10 years since. I got to check that, but I absolutely did not make the first several ones because I was kind of working in those days. I don't have quite as much demands as I used to have, Gary.
Yeah, Jimmy, you know that so many of these great players have migrated right to that area. So look, you have guys who are sleeping in their own beds. It's a good transition, obviously, with the event ending yesterday. For people to understand who's playing with who, how does all that come together? Because I know Matt Cahill, the great pro there at Seminole, it's a jigsaw puzzle in terms of, things can happen late, but how do all the pairings kind of materialize?
Well, I'd like to tell you, Gary, that I spend days and weeks looking at it and thinking about it. Like most things at Seminole, we have an unbelievable group of people. Nelson Curran on the golf course, Matty in the office, Matty as a golf professional, Rhonda in the office, no drama Liz in the cafeteria. And so what happens basically is Matty and his staff go through it, think about it. Occasionally people will kind of request to be with each other. I know, we have Shane and Rory play together.
Yep.
I've played, my great friend Danny Willett, I used to, see Craig Johnson play with him, so I would kind of play in that group. But for the most part, we went down on a hoopie this week, actually, and to be honest with you, he handled me the tee sheets then and said, "What do you think?" And I looked at it and I said, "It looked great." But you're right. It takes somebody that knows what they're doing, a lot of time looking at it. We try to get the guys that are going up to Bay Hill to play in the morning, other guys, senior guys, a little more in the afternoon. But that's really Matty Cahill's responsibility. Now, if I looked at it and I said, "Boy, those two guys don't like each other, why would you do that?" We really have very little of that. And everybody comes in with the right spirit. It's a fun day. But I have, like most successful things at Seminole, I've had little or nothing to do with it, to be honest with you.
You mentioned a few of the names, but look, Nelson, Snead, Hogan, Demerit, Palmer, Mangrum. I can go on, and then obviously since it returned in 04, a number of players who have major championships on their resumes who are still very much in their prime. What tickles you about seeing guys walk into that locker room? And there are a lot of great locker rooms in America and around the world. that one has a charm about it that again, look, I'm biased. There's nothing better. About the value and the desire to put their name on that wall. That's all it really is, Jimmy. Isn't that neat that in today's day and age, that's all it really is?
There is, and certainly from the amateur side as well.
Yes.
Everybody wants gold paint, to quote my friend Chris Quick, okay? And it is so true. And most of the pros look at it like when I was here during the summer, obviously Gil Hanson's team were doing the renovation. And so when the wall got done, I took a picture of it. I sent it to my partner, Ryan Fox, who was at New Zealand at the time. And he responded immediately. And when he went, we played a practice round yesterday. First thing he did is just, God, I love being on that wall. And, it's true to remember. I remember I sent all the guys that were on the wall that year, and Chris O'Donnell had won a tournament, which is shocking to all, and he was like almost emotional about being up there. So, but the pros, they see those names, they want to get up there, and we all do, and that's kind of the fun day. So, if you're in it, if you know you're going to shoot somewhere, 62, 4, 5, you're going to be trying real hard, and I have tried a lot and failed a lot, so I know what the other side of that is like, but. It's really special to see. The other thing that's kind of cool, Gary, is when guys come up, I saw Taylor Penrick and Corey Connors are just walking in. There's a Canadian pairing that you have playing today. Yep. And, I said, hey, Taylor, Mr. Dunne, thank you so much for having me. Corey Connors said, I wouldn't miss this day no matter what happened. And guys circle in and circle out. Some guys can't make it every year. Some guys make an effort, but it's pretty consistent, and they enjoy that there's really no demands on them. They just come, play, and either head to wherever parts they're going afterwards. So we're trying to keep it that special day for everybody.
I want you to, and I was lucky enough to spend half a day with you, played the golf course before the holidays, saw what Gil and Jim and their great team, the Cavemen, did on the front. They'll execute the renovation of the back next summer. For these players, some I know have gotten a first blush, some haven't. What are you so pleased about, and certainly in terms of Gil and the care that their team takes in doing what they did? What are these guys going to see today, particularly with the restoration of the front nine?
Well, the first thing they're going to do before they see anything, they'll feel it. Because with the superb drainage job that Gil and his team and Nelson Corin and our team did, the front nine is just absolutely firmer. And especially after any rain. Now, we haven't had much rain down here, but you can really feel it underfoot. The bunkers, which Jim Wagner spent all summer in, they look crisp and ready, and they're back to the original Mackenzie design within the spirit of it. Dick Wilson did a great job, but when he came in the late 40s and the early 50s, there was no thought of renovation. It was, do what we do. And he did some great things. He moved the third green to what I think is a better spot. We kept that. He moved the 18th green back to the ocean, which always would have made most sense. But, Gil, we always used to refer to, what would the dead architect think? And and that's Donald Ross, obviously. And he had to be pretty close to, he was a golfing genius, and, the design, the routing is the same, but the bunkers are different. They're more Ross-like, and also 1, 7, and 9 green will look different. What I've been excited about, Gary, including yourself, is the higher the aptitude, the better the player. It seems like the more positive response has been. I do think it's probably a shot more difficult because, we hit on 1 or you hit it on 9.
Yes.
You just don't have a 12-footer.
No, I think, look, I could go through all the things that I can recall from that day. The 7th green, to me, is now a work of art. I wanted to leave you and let you go play the 8th hole. I just wanted to go and just walk around the perimeter of it. As far as what you've done since you've been the president, look, I think a lot of clubs have been pragmatic about finding ways to give access in various forms. bringing the Walker Cup to Seminole, bringing the Stevens Cup to Seminole during COVID, making the choice to raise money and putting some guys who play for a living on Seminole and let the world see it again. I think that that's happening, Jimmy, across the spectrum. Why do you think it's happening? You can include drive, chip, and putt in regional finals at major championship venues. Why do you think this has happened over the last 10, 12, 15 years?
Well, I think there's a real drive, and I know there is at Seminole. You know, we don't own this. You know, we have a moment in time where we're here. There's a few hundred of us. We're very, very lucky to be here. But it has a place in golfing history, and certainly in American golfing history. And we announced, or the USGA, I should say, announced that we're going to bring it's. I might not be around. It'll give me something to live for, but we're going to have the Walker Cup again, and we're going to have the Curtis Cup, which I think is really important.
Yes.
Because, women have played such a key role at Seminole. If you really, really love golf, if you just appreciate it for the wonderful game that it is, I think you'll find Seminole really comfortable and you'll really, really enjoy it. And that's our intention. We're not running a hotel here. We have lunch, that's it. We're very, very simple. But what we try to do is give people that love golf an experience where they can say, boy, that was thoroughly enjoyable. I want to do it again, or I yearn to do it again, is what I say. And I think the pros have appreciated the effort that we've made. We got to keep polishing the diamond, which is what I call about the golf course. And we got to make sure we did a whole renovation of the clubhouse. We got to make sure the facilities are intact. And when we have our 100th, which is in a few years, sort of 1/130, or then I want to feel like we took as good a care of it as the people before us, and we shared it with the golfing world.
Last thing, as somebody who's played them, look, you qualified for a U.S. Senior Amateur. You can play very competitive golf, but you played with the best players in the world. What is the most redeemable thing about going around that place with people who play for a living, who are the best at what they do? Playing that place that you love so much with them, what's the best part of it?
Well, we were talking about that yesterday when we played. I played with the captain of the Walker Cup team, Nathan Smith, and one of his players, our Notre Dame boy, and
yes.
and with my partner Ryan, and Seminole, I like to say, it's advanced golf, and the closer you get to the hole, the more difficult it gets. And you can certainly go, what I love about it is you can go on a run, you can hit some shots close, you can make some putts, and you feel like, hey, man, this is, and then all of a sudden, whack. And I love that a little like St. Andrews and courses like that, it gives you a little hope. Like, hey, I'm like I said, I did it yesterday. I said, boy, I'm even par through 8. Well, that changed as soon as I said that, and so I think Seminole it just doesn't beat you over the head with a brick. It can if you're really having a bad day, but it can lure you in and you can shoot 65 or you can shoot 75. I remember one of the players from the Dustin Johnson once said to me, he said, I don't get that Seminole. Every time I look at it, I said, I'm going to rip it up. And then I shoot 73, and I think that kind of, I think it's really important that you feel like I've got a chance here. And then, but you gotta hit shots.
Well, go prep for your round, second year in a row, a pre-round interview. You got gold paint last year. Let's keep the tradition alive. Thank you. Really appreciate you doing this.
Gary, thanks for your show. Thanks for what you do. You have a little different angle, and it's really important that the golf viewers hear you, and I appreciate all that you do for the game. Thank you very much.
Great day at Seminole. Thank you. That's Jimmy Dunne, president of the club. Those are winning words presented by Century Insurance. We continue on a Monday here on 5 Clubs right after this. Back in on a Monday here on 5 Clubs Live on Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio Channel 92 on Sirius XM. This segment brought to you by Peter Millar. It's about that time. It is March. The spring season is here. The entire line, whatever you need, whatever it is that you do in your life from work to play and everything in between. They have it. It is the premier luxury brand. It is Peter Millar and petermillar.com. Joining me now, did a lot of television with this guy. He continues to do a lot of it on PGA Tour Live because nobody knows Bay Hill like he does. He won the 2001 Byron Nelson, and he just held off guys like Nick Price and Tiger Woods and Sergio Garcia and Justin Leonard, and I can go on, and you're going, this guy's going to melt down. He didn't. Robert Damron, good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. I definitely melted down. It just I happened to run out of holes before I melted down. Somewhere in that evening, I was a blubbering bowl of jelly in the clubhouse, but I got through that one somehow.
You did. It's truly one of the great screenshots when you look at that final page. So let me start with what happened yesterday, because as somebody who did this whole flow state, and it's here and then it's gone. Look, Shane Lowry looked like he was on his way. There was no bobbles. There was no, he was hitting all these proper shots. He's seeing lines on greens. You're going, okay, by how much? And then he hit his tee shot on 16, and it was a classic meltdown. Why does that happen?
Well, it's also a course he loves, and he was the player that was supposed to win. He's playing a much, much weaker field. He is the stud in this field. So all those things should work for him, but somehow worked against him. I mean, he stood up, like you said, on 16 and hit the worst shot of the week, and it wasn't even close. You've got, with the iron in your hand, you've got the world left. Miss it in the rough, miss it in the bunker. So what? Lay up, make your bogey. You've still got the tournament won. The question I've asked myself, I swear, for years, and I think this is the secret to playing golf, why is your brain your enemy? Why is it trying to actively sabotage you as you're doing what you want to do? You want to win this golf tournament. You're excited. You've worked your whole life to get right here and win. And your brain, the little voice in your head, is going bananas. Be careful. Don't go in the water. Don't do this. This would be terrible. I think the best of the best, the Tigers and Nicklases, of course, even the Rorys, a lot of times, Scotty for sure, they've got that part kind of mastered. I think that really is one of the real key edges inside your mind that separates them from the normal, hoi polloi out on the golf course. So that is the question that's asked. Why do we choke? I don't like using that word in professional golf. That's the worst word in history. It's people, shank's a bad word. No, choke is the worst word on PGA Tour. And unfortunately with Shane Lowry, we saw a heavy dose of it yesterday. Yeah,
Robert, I said this. You tell me your thoughts. Look, he hit the angle's a little different from the tee shot on 15, which is a par 3, to the tee shot on 16. But he has iron in hand, and that wasn't even close. That wasn't like, oh God, that may cross the penalty area. I mean, it was almost on the other side of that canal. I think that if the routing of that golf course went back in the opposite direction on 17, that might have been the best thing that could have happened to him. But he's looking at something not only visually that's similar, winds the same. Like if he could play back into a wind coming into off the right and sling a hook on 17 as opposed to do the kind of the same thing that he was trying to produce on 16, that was the worst thing that could happen to him. Is that the other part of this? Is that he couldn't get away from what he just produced because he had to try to overcome it by producing something essentially exactly the same on the next hole.
Man, that's why you're so good. I really would have never considered that, but it's true. You're stepping up with an iron, with water right, the same wind, the same shot you just completely blew. There's no question that had something to do with it. And if he had a different look, we'll never know. But if he had a different look, would he hit a better shot? Quite possibly. But I think the one factor, too, that we're missing, okay, he just completely blundered 16. And by the way, hats off to him. The up and down out of the bunker for double was outrageous. Outrageous. Everybody's like, what did he do off the tee? Holy cow. Stevie incarnate could not have gotten that ball up and down. So, good for him. He still was in there fighting. But he stood on 17 reeling and watched Nico Echavarria make that putt for birdie.
Yep.
That was doubly as difficult. Not only did I just mess up, this guy is going to pounce on my mess up. He's not going to mess up with me. He's already, Well, let's be honest, he got a good break. He didn't mean to miss that pin to the right, Nico, but he makes the birdie. And then Shane's sitting there going, what just happened? I just got hit by a bus. And yeah, the routing different, very possibly, but it is what it is. And that's up to Shane to kind of sort out in his own brain.
Robert, you know this about this game. We want to apply this term scar tissue when it seems appropriate. Is that a real thing? Do you have things that live inside you when you were at your best and had chances that could creep into your head that had to do with things, an episode that was 3 years ago, 5 years ago? Is scar tissue a real thing?
Oh, it's 100%. Not 5 years ago, when you were 9 years old, 10 years old, mistakes you made and stuff like that. I was playing a junior tournament. I was like 13 years old, 12 years old, and I hit a drive out of bounds, and the kid playing with me told me, you used a pink tee. That's why your drive went out of bounds. I never again in my life used a pink tee, and it's not because I'm superstitious, but I remember that dumb little kid telling me that every time I used a pink tee, I was going to hit out of bounds. So if I just see a pink tee, my brain goes out of bounds. So no, I'm not going to use them. And that is the unfortunate. You hear guys, older, gruff guys like myself say, wow, you get so much scar tissue. You get this game just beats you up. And the normal human, I think, which I would fit in that category, I hope, remembers the bad far more than the good. You mentioned, graciously, my win at Byron Nelson. I think about that once in the bluest of moons. I think about the 3 years later when I missed a 3-4 footer to extend the playoff with Sergio. I think about that all the time. So the bad stuff jumps out in your mind, and the good stuff kind of goes away. The thing that kind of perplexed me about Shane, he had just, not that long ago, stood up on the peak of pressure at Bethpage and pulled off something that no one was going to pull off. He pulled off a Tiger Woods move and put Europe on his back and won the whole Ryder Cup, something that meant more to him than anything in the world. So why couldn't he pull on that instead of, well, I just lost it on 16T. I don't know. Everything just went haywire. I couldn't control the club face. You controlled it at the biggest time of your life, and then you didn't this time. And that goes back to exactly what you say, scar tissue. I want to remember the Ryder Cup heroics, but I remember something silly I did back in junior golf when the tournament was on the line and I hit a half shank iron off the tee, and that's what he did. I wasn't in his mind, but there's no question that, before he struck the iron on 16, that the thoughts weren't positive. They were on the darker side.
Yeah, it's, and obviously, as you know, between the Ryder Cup and what happened yesterday, he stood on the 18th tee in Dubai and hit it in the left first cut, 139, wedge in hand, dumps it in a back bunker, then plays the next one into the penalty area, makes a double, and you're going, what the hell just happened? So he's got these two episodes already early in 26 off of the pressure cooker of execution at Bethpage. It's a mind-numbing experience. All right, look, this week for you, you're on course at a course you know better than anybody. Your entire adult life spent there forging a relationship with Mr. Palmer. In addition to all these other men, including your dad, this place means the world to you. I think of, obviously Florida, Robert, with respect to the agronomics. We've talked about all these water features, and it can be punitive. What do you think are the looks at Bay Hill that are discomforting to these fields?
Well, we have really an assortment of really difficult par threes. I think that's one thing that stands out. It's one of those courses that they're all very long, they're all very difficult, and if you get 4 pars every day, you're going to be ahead of the game. As far as scoring at the end of the week, we've been known over the last, actually since Mr. Palmer's passing, for the deepest rough, even maybe U.S. Open. The rough has been outrageously heavy and dense and pitch out rough. So you stand on most tees, and it's not quite the same bomb and gouge as it is at other places. You've got to be a lot more cautious, let's say, off the tee, hitting fairways. But really, all that boils down to, and I think this is the biggest overlying feeling when you're at Bay Hill, is Mr. Palmer is still there. His memory is still there. And he did not like his course being torn up. He didn't like it when the guys came and shot 20 or 21 under. He wanted it to be a challenge. And the tour, the way they set it up, and and our crew here, they honor Mr. Palmer and his memory by making this the toughest challenge they could make it without being kind of silly, without being unfair. And this year the rough's actually a little bit down from what it is in the past, but it's still very penal. We're going to get some dry weather, so the greens will be firm. I remember, I think it was the Tyrrell Hatton year when he won, and it was just carnage on the golf course.
Under.
It was dried out. It was brown, windy. Nobody was, making pars hardly. And I got a text from a player of my era, a good friend of mine, Greg Kraft, and he said, Mr. Palmer is absolutely loving this from wherever he's watching it. And I said, you damn right he is. This is exactly what he wanted.
No doubt. 4 under, he wins it. You're right about that. And since then, in this decade, 8.6 under par has been the winning score. Last thing, since you were at your best, and as you look in this century, it's a kaleidoscope of winners, and then you had the density of all the years that Tiger dominated. Do you think there's a particular style now that it will be more rewarded with the setup, with the way it is at Bay Hill?
Well, at Bay Hill, again, this is a precision and patience golf course. The more patient you are, the better chance you have, because everybody's going to run into trouble out there. Working last week at Cognizant and seeing the guys play this great golf course, PGA National, and not the toughest of conditions. And then on the weekdays, Thursday, Friday afternoon, the wind kicked up and it got really tough. And I watched some really good players completely kind of lose their patience out there. And that's what I think is going to be super important at Bay Hill. It's almost that major mentality where let everyone else beat themselves. I'll just hang around and collect the trophy at the end. But, Gary, the what you're asking, I think, about the styles of golf, I think professional golf itself for the last very many years, we've said, it's a distance. It's all about distance. The longer you are, the better you're going to be. And I think that's true, but Scotty's the best player in the world. What does he do better than anyone? And that's distance control. We live in the TrackMan era, and these guys can work on their distance control to the half yard from any yardage with any club all day long. And when you get on a course like a Bay Hill or even like PGA National last week, where the margins are so fine, and these guys keep dialing in their numbers so tight. That's the important part of being a great professional golfer now, is controlling, working from 25 yards and out to 250 yards, and being able to sit there and say, I'm going to hit this ball with a 6-iron 191, and then check your TrackMan and dial that in. That is the most important thing that you can work on, and that's the new style, I think, that's making all the money on the tour.
Robert, thank you. I know this is a fun, special week for you on course for
Absolutely.
PGA Tour Live. Have a great week, my friend. Thank you. That is Robert Damron.
Thank you, sir.
There he is, my old colleague on Morning Drive. We come back, some final thoughts on a Monday right after this. Back in on 5 Clubs on a Monday. This segment brought to you by Peter Millar. Went through the store on Madison Avenue on Saturday. That's dangerous, especially when I had the entire spring line to look at. You can look at it all as well at petermillar.com. It's that time of the year to get yourself outfitted for spring and summer with the best luxury brand. I was on Madison Avenue because I was at the USGA annual meeting and their service awards dinner right there in Midtown. And the thing about these awards, the Bob Jones Award, I believe, is one of the great awards that can be bestowed upon anybody in any sport. And Ellen Port, who has not only been a great player, but also a coach, a teacher, a mentor, a captain, what she's done in golf, it was great to see her receive that. Jerry Lemieux receives the Joe Dye Award for volunteerism. An expert Nobody knows the rules of golf like he does. Paul Latshaw winning the Green Section Award. His tree of people who've gone on to become superintendents at the best clubs in America, not to mention him setting up as many major championships at all these different venues as he has. He couldn't be there, but it was received by his son with the same name. And then Stephen Proctor, who won the Herb Wind Award for literature, his book Matchless. And he got up and, not surprisingly, no notes, just shared eloquently what it meant to him. It's a great night, and I will also say I think it's a very nice touch, it's more than a touch, that the U.S. Junior Trophy, whoever wins the U.S. Junior going forward will win the Tiger Woods Trophy appropriately. And if you win the U.S. Amateur and you win the Havemeyer Trophy, which is my favorite in all of golf, you will also win the Tiger Woods Gold Medal appropriately as a three-time champion. They also announced a few other sites as well. We can talk about that down the road. It's going to be a while. Tomorrow, 2 for Tuesday, 2 hours, 8 to 10. Josh Carpenter, Brendan DeYoung in studio, Akshay Bhatia, Webb Simpson with me as well. A big 2 hours on Tuesday. Have a great Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.